Hello, everyone, and welcome to Takeaway Theater, our panel. This will be our discussion for the next hour and a half. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Natalie Fainstein. I'll be the moderator. Throughout the discussion, if you'd like to ask any questions, you have a Q&A button. I'm sure you're already familiar with it. So you'll be able to post your questions, and we will either take them online, or we'll wait for the end of the discussion and then ask our distinguished panel your questions. So please don't hesitate to ask anything, and feel free to use this Q&A button. We'd love to hear from you. So let's get started. We're talking about theater and the performing arts and how shows these days, especially these days, are going to find it difficult or more challenging to travel. Theater and the performing arts promote intercultural dialogue, as we all know. International collaboration is vital for the theater sector to thrive and cultivate open and interculturally minded audiences. While small organizations and independent artists are usually highly mobile and engaged in transnational projects, many other players in the sector still need more support to take part in pan-European and transcontinental collaborations. But these days, as we all know, the effects of the COVID-19, the second wave, actually, of the COVID-19 are putting the entire performing arts sector at an even higher risk of devastation. How will this affect international exchanges between theaters? Will it change the way that theater makers devise their next project? Now, before I address these questions to the panel, I'd like to mention the Dresden Declaration made by the European Theater Forum, the first ever official dialogue between 12 European theater and performing arts networks, all members of the broader theater and performing arts sector and EU policymakers. This consortium has offered several solutions to the crisis in several different fields, and the one that relates to our panel has to do with fostering the internationalization of the theater and performing arts sector by increasing structural support for international collaboration through augmented and continued funding for co-production, networking, cross-border touring, etc. This is all it sounds amazing, very hoity-toity, but what does it mean, really, in practical terms? Moving forward, how can Israeli fringe theater benefit from, and as well as contribute to, this kind of cultural exchange? So we have here today 4 brilliant Israeli independent artists whose work, like most of us here today and you online, has been affected by COVID-19. So I'd like to introduce them. Creator and performer of Scrambled, Rotem Nachmani. For the past 15 years, Rotem is a creative performing artist in the fields of physical theater, fringe, and alternative theater. In 2016, she won the Best Supporting Actress Award at the Golden Hedgehog Fringe Theater Competition. Thank you for being here, Rotem.
Thank you, I'm happy to be here.
Creator and performer of Carte Blanche, Michal Svironi. When I asked Michal how she'd like me to introduce her, she was very embarrassed, and this is what she had to say. Michal is an international performing artist, and it's still unclear how come she's not as well known as Pina Bausch, Frida Kahlo, and Marina Abramovic, in no particular order. Well, it's about time. It's not too late. Creator and performer of Painted Floor, Mediterranean View, Moti Brecher. Before all else, Moti deserves a huge congratulation for the birth of his daughter just a couple of days ago. So mazel tov.
Thanks
to Moti, and thank you so much for being here. In addition to being a new dad, Moti is a puppeteer, actor, creator, and teacher whose main activity focuses on the points of contact between the fields of art, education, stage, and screen. He designs puppets and uses them to dramatize performances that combine autobiographical details with political and historical events. And creator and performer by virtue of the same movement, Mika Kupfer. Mika is a multidisciplinary artist, director, choreographer, and performer. She uses choreography, physical actions, texts, objects, and sound to reveal human moments, hierarchies, violence, and existential absurdity. So thank you all so much for being here today. And I'd like to start with you, Rotem. Your work, as we'll see very shortly, is extremely personal and revealing. In Scrambled, you speak openly and honestly about the fertility treatments that you're going through. Let's see a short clip, okay? And then I'll ask you some more about it.
Okay.
יש לשים נרות 3 פעמים ביום ולשכב 20 דקות בכל פעם ולהזריק כל יום באותה שעה לזריקה להיות בקירור. יש לאכול מלא סלק על מנת לעבוד את רעילית הרחם. יש להימנע ממאמץ פיזי, אין להרים דברים כבדים, אין לרכב על סוסים, אין לשכב עם סוסים. יש לעשות בדיקות דם ואולטרסאונד בכל יומיים, יש ללכת לביקור בזמנים המדויקים על מנת לשפר את איכות הביציות. אין לקיים יחסי מין לפחות יומיים לפני שאיבת הביציות, אין לקיים יחסי מין לפחות שבועיים לאחר החזרת העובר לרחם. אין לקיים יחסי מין. לא לחשוב בזה יותר מדי ולא לשכוח לקחת כדורים. אסור להיחשף לשמש, אסור להתמזמז בשמש, אסור לעשן, אסור לטגן, אסור להתלונן, אסור לעונן, אסור ליטול תרופות בחושך. אסור אלכוהול, לא קופאין, לא לחשוב על זה יותר מדי. לחשוב חיובי, להאמין, והכי חשוב, לשחרר.
Thank you. So, Rotem, could you please tell us a little bit, first of all, about your private journey and what led you to do this show?
Yeah, okay, so when I found out that I have a medical problem and I realized that I need to go into this crazy journey of fertility treatments, so my whole world was collapsing. I felt like my body's cheating on me and the most natural thing of a woman was taking from me. So I got into a deep depression. I felt it's very big on me to digest. And I started to write for myself at first. To write about all what I'm going through, the crazy loneliness, like no one can really understand what I'm going through, not even my husband or my mother. About the big shame of walking around as a woman who cannot do the natural thing. And about the expectation and disappointment that comes around over and over again. So when I started to write, I understand that if I really want to deal with this big thing, I have to make art of it. If I cannot create life, maybe I will create a show. Mm. And when we started to work on it, me and my directors, Maya Bitan and Maya Dubkovsky, very fast we realized that it's bigger than my personal story. I mean, we had that challenge to take out this personal drama into some translation of an artistic statement and stage language. And the questions and the subjects that the Scrambled brings, like the shame and struggle or craving for something that you really want and you cannot get, it's passed through that woman in her, she's isolate herself in the toilet room, who becomes like a shrine for her, like a safe place to break down, to cry, to puke and pee and sing and laugh. So I think it's confronting the audience with these subjects because they can relate to them also.
Yeah. Thank you. So, as we can hear, as you know, it's very clear from what you're saying that your show is very personal and very private, and you're literally inviting us into like the most private place.
Yeah,
possible.
I have a song on my vagina, for example.
Yeah.
It's a great song.
It is a great song. So do you think, now look at us here in the studio, do you think you can sort of maintain this kind of vulnerability and intimacy that your show requires online, like this?
It's a great question. I think any theater who's filming without doing any adaptation for it, for the camera, is lacking. I mean, you cannot really feel the presence and the energy and the fragile moments as you can if you watch it on live, especially when you have some dialogue or I'm really looking at my audience and talks to him. No
barrier.
Yeah. So it's a problem. But if it will be the only way to perform now, I can think about doing some adaptation and make the show
Adapted.
yeah, to the camera.
Maybe you can do it in a toilet, in an actual toilet.
Yeah, I thought about it, actually.
You did?
But I would do everything I can to find a creative solution to meet the audience and not going to this alternative.
Yeah. I think also the pandemic and COVID-19 has affected you artistically in other ways as well. Can you just say one or two lines, one or two sentences about the creative solutions or the creative projects that came out of this?
First of all, I had the corona. It was great, really.
Yeah.
I was 2 weeks at home. It wasn't so bad. I mean, I felt a little bit weak.
Yeah.
But it's okay, I'm מחוסנת. But this I had to stop everything. This vacuum made me very creative and inspiration time. And I had the time to write a musical for the protest that is burning now in our country. And so in these 2 weeks, I wrote and produced that musical, and we performed it on the protest outside the Prime Minister house.
Wow, that's
amazing. Was great.
And you had an audience of thousands and thousands.
We had 400 people out there, but it was great.
In fringe terms, that's incredible. Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rotem.
Thank you.
Michal, you've been doing small, intimate shows your entire career. It's just you on stage with props and beautiful, evolving, surprising sets. So let's watch a snippet from your latest work, Carte Blanche, to get a taste of it.
All right.
Okay?
זוכרים איך זה היה קודם? לפני, הרבה לפני. לפני שידעתם. לפני שידעתם שכל החלקים של הגוף שלכם, כל החלקים שמרכיבים אתכם הם כל כך שבריריים ועדינים. לפני שידעתם שכל המכונה הזאת יכולה טעות אחת לקרוס. קשה להקל, כמה נעים, כמה פשוט, כמה מנחם להאמין שאנחנו עשויים משכבה אחידה. שכבה יפה, עמידה, שכבה שכבה אטומה, שכבה חזקה, שכבה עמידה, שכבה חזקה. כן, שכבה... סקסית. שכבה חלקה. אוי, אוי!
Thank you. So
From embarrassment to embarrassment.
now we've seen it all. Do you think that the time has come for these kinds of shows to blossom for what we've seen here? Are these the shows that will survive? What possibilities does your kind of compact, intimate, handmade theater offer?
Well, first, I would just like to correct you. Excuse me. I also have other shows. It's true, I have 3 one-woman shows.
Oh.
But I also have outside shows, interactive shows, which is really very interesting to see how we can adapt them to the Corona time. But yes, to come back to your question, yes, I think that in general it is, and it was already, time for this kind of alternative theater to grow from the alternative and to, I think mostly it's time for the big theaters and governments and all of this kind of, to wake up, you know, and let themselves inspired by what we do. We are more and more. And I think this Corona is like a really wake-up call for them. And I'm afraid, I don't know if they hear it, because for me, the Corona is what is going on now with the theater in Israel. And we are quite alone, you know, with protesting open, the theaters are closed, and the cultural museums and everything, these things are closed. And the public is not really with us. It's even, sometimes against us. And us is a very big term. I mean, what do we say us? Are we together with the national big theaters? I don't think so. Is it the same profession to be a comedian in a theater and to be an independent creator? I don't think so. I don't think they even know the half of what we do, and we don't want to do what they do, that's for sure. So they always think that we want to be them, and we are just miserable people that work in the sides of the street. And we think that they are miserable people who, you know, so it's not the same profession. This is, I don't know, we can call it theater, and let's call ourselves arts of bizarre. Art de spectacle, arts of stage arts, I don't know. Because we are, I think, more diverse. There are many, even in there are many, many different things. Streets, yes. Art, circus, many things. So I think the Corona is just expressing what was already there. The theater died a long time ago before the Corona. And the public was not there for it. It was difficult to bring public. It was old public. It was Vadei Ovdim, how you call it?
Worker unions.
Worker unions, you know, it was a struggle in the big. So I think that, yes, they have what to ask themselves. And especially now, we can see really this, I mean, I feel like it's really annoying me, because this sitting down on our asses, crying, oh, they don't open us, why they don't give us? And I think that this is lack of creativity. And this lack of creativity has been there already, and we just see it now. It's horrible. You're creative people. This is your profession. Why don't you look for other ways? There are so many ways. I mean, just for example, I can give you, of course, we make small theater, and we can travel easily, but, you know, we cannot travel now with this. This is not possible. So what do we do? Okay, so I was sitting on my ass also for like 2 months, and I had a shock of creativity, stop of creativity, just being a mom and doing things. And then slowly, little by little, you know, I started I'm a creative person. So limits for me are just an opportunity. And the barriers are just an opportunity to open them. And this is what I should do. And personally, I feel that for me, it's not only that what is important for me is me and to be on the stage and to have fun with myself. No, what is important for me is the public. The public, not only I need him, he needs me. And so I was looking for ways to reach this public. And I found a few ways.
Could you tell us about the project that you have with the devise
Yes,
group?
yes, I will tell you about it.
Okay.
First of all, I started to paint more. And this is going with the carte blanche. And recently we made an exhibition. And so we understood that we can invite people to a gallery and to make little performances and to create, you know, another way, because we want to meet the public. And other thing that we do with the group Theater Devise and Limor Itzhayek and other musicians, we bought kind of a van, open van, how do you call it, nigrar? A trailer. We bought a trailer that opens to a stage, and we travel. We've never sold so many shows in our entire life like in this time, because we give something that people are really in need of. And we are traveling all over the country, and it's amazing. We really bring water to a desert.
Yeah.
And this is amazing. And I see Yigal Ezrati doing it, and I wonder, you know, in Jaffa Theater, and I don't know why other theaters that have much more money than we have, and much more, you know, crews and everything just waiting to be moved, why don't they do something? And when they do, mostly like, I don't know, the other day I saw the ceremony protest of the Philharmonic and all the, it looked like a ceremony in school, you know, with, you know, just crying about themselves. Give some fun to the people. Show what you can do. Be creative. Don't cry.
So I think what you're saying, in a way, and this is something that we've spoken about before, it seems like in a way, the future of theater, at least in the near future, sort of lies in its past. Because what you're doing is very similar to what happened during Shakespearean times and during Moliere's time, where you have a group of actors, a group of performers who just take a carriage, a trailer. Now it's trailer, and you just go from town to town, from village to village, and perform.
This is one way. I mean, with my dearest colleague, Yoni Tal, we think that he's more of an application person and stuff like this. We are thinking how we can make the Zoom like our tool. I think that we here are people who are looking for a special and very personal stage language. Okay, this is something that is very familiar to people in this kind of field of theater. And the Zoom can also be a tool, a way. And for example, with carte blanche, which the idea of this show, like in the language, in the stage language, is how to go from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions, because I am all the time moving from painting to life, from my body to paintings. And here, what is interesting would be how to move from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions. And in this case of carte blanche, it's really interesting. I can play with it. But there are many other ways to play with it. And I'm always all the time thinking, so what will be the difference, okay, between a live show or a pre-filmed show? Mm-hmm. You know, what will be the difference for the public? And I think this is very important to notice, because if we are not making films, if I'm going to make I think if it's a filmed show, so it's a filmed show. But I'm not a filmmaker.
Yeah.
It's not the art. If I'm going to do art, for me, it's okay. But what is special about this, about us, is the contact with the public. And we can try to see how we can get in contact with the public through the Zoom. So we can do it in workshops, but we can also do it in very interesting application ways.
Yeah.
The answer is creativity.
I think what you're saying actually leads me to Moti, because Moti is also, and this is something that a bit improvised, but we've spoken about this, about this creativity with this new format. And this is something that you as an educator, and this also relates to a question that we have from our audience. So you as a teacher, I think will maybe be able to answer that best. The question by Rich Bryant is, how would you mentor students to explore and express their creative sides during this time? So if you don't mind giving us an answer.
Taking a sidetrack.
Exactly, a bit of a sidetrack.
Okay, cool. So first of all, I was listening and I agree with everything that was said here before. Maybe I'll relate to it later. I see Zoom, for example, in the theater, in the theater space. I see it more as a subject rather than a tool. I'm saying that out of experience. Me and Michal, for example, we were part of an experience of a certain small theater in Tel Aviv, Hachanut Theater, to make an evening which was called a Zombie evening, and we were all dressed up, like everyone made a small piece, 3-minute piece about an apocalyptic situation in which there is no COVID, but zombies have taken over the world. So a bunch of artists were giving this subject. They were performing a 3-minute piece, and people could go inside. This is a form of performance we tried. I'm not saying it went perfect. It was very weird, as everybody who tried to perform through Zoom or internet knows. We still don't have the skills to do it properly. But we're trying, like Michal said.
Yeah, and with your students.
And I'll address the question now. With students, I find that, first of all, I think that encouraging students to act, I can totally understand the question, because encouraging students to act in this time, and by act I mean not only acting, I mean making an action, moving out of their seats, leaving the screen, is a very hard task. Because we are all there's a lot of depression, and the kids are depressed, and not even kids, also grown-ups. It's very hard to move them into action. And you don't have, like Rotem said before, I think in a way, you don't have the live response from audience, which is essential for performance. So everything comes out a little tired and weak. I find that the best way to activate students is to, first of all, give them tasks to make actions that are related to their home environment and use stuff in their home environment, stuff that they can actually use. Now, people here, at least the people that I've seen their works, use object a lot. We come from object theaters. For us, object theater is like part of the basic language of theater. So engaging students with making acquaintance with their objects inside their houses. Taking a glass, making it talk. Taking a sofa, making it talk with the mirror. These kind of activities really charges up the imagination of the students / spectators, active spectators, I mean. I hope I answered a bit.
Thank you. Rotem, you're also a teacher, and you also use Zoom. Would you like to add something?
Okay, I admit that I didn't find yet the greatest way to teach theater or acting in the Zoom, but I can connect what you say to find like places at home or locations that are in a way you can expose yourself or express yourself in the personal way. So it's interesting. But mostly I found myself give them exercise that they need to film. So it's not really theater. It makes I'm still working on find something.
It's a work in progress.
I
Yeah.
think that it's an opportunity. I mean, of course, it's not the same like a public, but it's an opportunity to give them what's very difficult to teach is to concentrate on themselves, work alone, use nothing to make something. This is a very big opportunity for that.
And also some of the students, if we're talking about young students, I find that some of the students really can free themselves through when they're alone at home. even more than if they were in class. So some of the stress is off in a way, so
Yeah.
they can act.
And that's very interesting. So thank you, Moti, and let's watch a clip from your show.
נו בחייך. ברלין, ספרות גרמנית. אני לא מטומטמת. אני לא מוכן להיות היהודון שאת שוכבת איתו כדי לעצבן את אבא שלך.
תעוף מהבית שלי.
זה לא הבית שלך!
בייבי, תשתדל לא להרוג אף אחת, אוקיי?
הנה אתה! תקשיב, מצאתי את הצעד האחרון! איפה? אני לא רואה כלום! תסתכל! אני לא רואה כלום! תסתכל טוב! אני לא מאמין. הצעד האחרון. הצעד האחרון.
Thank you. So, Moti, it seems from the clip we've just seen that you can almost fit your entire show inside a suitcase and take it everywhere. So, first of all, is that really the case? And secondly, do you think that perhaps there's a metaphor hiding here? Maybe at the end of the day, we can sort of squeeze the Israeli-Palestinian conflict into one room full of puppets and figure it all out there inside the room. And perhaps smaller shows, these kinds of smaller shows can help us focus better on the ideas we wish to convey as artists.
Okay, so first of all, I wish we could squeeze the whole Israel-Palestinian conflict into one small suitcase. And the suitcase was small, but not that small. It's actually in the size of like a coffin. So when I moved it
Again,
around,
another metaphor. Yes.
people thought I was moving a corpse. So, but yes, relatively small. I can squeeze it. I think that, first of all, we mentioned the word small theaters here. And I think that also currently, but also historically, small theaters have always formed as a sort of opposition to big theaters. So I think the avant-garde and the like
Fringe?
yeah, the fringe, the subversive nature of theater, of small theaters has always been there. About moving the show around and about conflicts, I'll say something about that. I think, first of all, I'm not sure that, and I'm not the first one to say it, that the object of theater is to solve conflicts. We reflect conflicts, and we serve as a sort of catharsis. So I don't aim to solve a conflict. But I like the idea of what you said of like compressing the whole conflict into one suitcase and traveling around with it. I think that this is something that is very typical of, well, specifically the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, because I think that Israel, and again, I'm not the only one who thinks it, that Israel forms as a sort of theater, a sort of puppet theater, actually, to bigger powers of being in the world. We often have been portrayed as a sort of game that Russia plays with the United States, or that the West, a form of the way of the West to deal with the East. So I think that at least when I built this show, when I created it, I looked at the puppets in this way. The puppets are a metaphor for our existence here and for the conflict as serving for bigger conflicts that like move the people like puppets.
Yeah.
In that way, we serve as sort of puppets. That's the main theme of the show, I think.
Yeah.
Also, I said something about traveling theaters because puppet theater and traveling theater and squeezing a show into a suitcase deals with that. So I think that also traveling theaters is something that for me connects a lot with the Jewish existence and the Jewish way of performing. And we are, I believe, Jews here, at least in this room, and this is a Jewish country, even though there are other religions and sectors in this country. So I think that moving around with the puppets and displaying this thing, this like a sort of an apocalyptic show that deals with like the loss of the state of Israel is very much connected to the for me, to the traveling Jewish nature, this fear of losing the country and moving around. And I'll just conclude by connecting it also to the coronavirus, because we are living in an apocalyptic times.
Yes, we are.
So it's kind of, for me, it's kind of relevant. Everything like get lost, and you travel, this image of a traveling man through the wilderness with his puppet show.
And a mask.
And a mask, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Moti.
Welcome.
And last but not least, Mika, your show, which won the first prize at the last year's Akko Festival, which is Israel's leading fringe festival, and this year took place online. As Rotem can tell us also, she took part in a very interesting adventure there. So your show, by virtue of the same movement, is more abstract than what we've seen here. And it has a fascinating, I would even say cunning, way of dealing with such concepts as time, violence, and political mechanisms. So let's take a quick look, and then I'll ask you to elaborate. This is indeed gorgeous. So I think we can all agree that the pandemic, among its many other effects, has also affected the way that we perceive and handle all these concepts that I've mentioned before, time, violence, political mechanisms that are that we hear about every day now, and are almost they're very vibrant. So could you elaborate on that, on how you think your show sort of interacts or even responds in a way to what's going on now?
I start about saying what I felt, and I wanted to talk about my show. And I was starting, like I'm dealing a lot of time with violence, but in a more gentle and aesthetic way. And this time I make a zoom out and I looked at power in general, and I use it as a material and how I can use it between relationship of people and objects. And I looked at power as it has both sides. It has like it can create and it can destroy it, and we can use it both ways. And then I tried to look at the piece how I can also create beautiful images, but also to show how I create them and what it takes to create it. Like we build a sculpture, so we take the wood from the tree and we are ruining the tree. So normally we don't think about it and we just see the beautiful images, the women hanging on the wall, but what it takes to do it. And then I try to look at the world, like how we use power and how we dominate it and in which way. And when I think about it in ancient times, we were using it more physically. We were hitting each other if we want something, but now we are more sophisticated and polite, so we won't do it. So we need to find other ways. So we're using different way to manipulate each other or to use other people to do our own job. So, for example, the idea with the time that you mentioned, I was thinking what is the most elementary thing that we all have, and also in theater we always said we have space and time. So I said I can play with the time, and maybe in my world, I mean, I have a power as a creator when the audience enter my show. They are in my world for an hour, and I can do whatever I want. And this different from reality, but then I can do experiment, which in the real life is more complicated than
Perhaps I should just tell our audience that when you enter your show, there's a clock. Just very big clock, and at certain times it just shows the passage of time during the show is not normal. It's not what we're used to. I mean, because you look at the show and then you look at the clock and then you go and you look back on the show, and then the clock, once you look at it again, you like glimpse at it, maybe it's more time has passed than you think. So you're playing with the passage of time there, just to make it clear to people at home. Yeah. So please continue. Yeah.
So I wanted to check the sense of trust that people put on other people, on the empowered ones, and I was very shocked to see that most of the people believed the time and lost their sense of time, which was like the time was doubled, and most of the people didn't notice. I even had one show that in the end of the show, people just run away, didn't clap and nothing. And it took me time to realize why is it like this? And then I heard talking outside, and they were running to the other show. And it was really, I felt bad about it. But it was interesting to try it. And I feel now it's also, we're living in a time where we are trying things that we don't know. It's something new that appears, and we're all trying to figure out. And this mechanism that we used to have, that we didn't notice about it so much, suddenly I feel it reveals itself more, and we suddenly we are more aware about the manipulation, about the power, or about the contract we have between citizens and government. And yeah, I think the good thing about it now that we are more aware, I think, to the manipulation, we check more, we know that it's happening, we know that there is power around and someone is using it, and then we try to understand how and where. Yeah, so I feel in the piece as well, I try to manipulate the audience and to see if they understand or if they get it, and also to show both sides of the creation, about the making something, try to make sublime moments, but also show the making of and what we sacrifice, which is our bodies, our
blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, like behind the scenes and during building the images, showing like both sides of it was important for me. It was a bit messy, but yeah.
I think also, again, I don't know why I'm going back to this, but I think also the concept of time during Corona has become very different than it used to be. The day is different. We divide the day differently.
Suddenly we have time.
We have time.
Yeah,
exactly.
everybody has time.
Yeah.
You call a friend. Yeah, sure, I'm not doing anything.
Which is also a bit of a, you have no excuses now. What were you doing? I was so busy, there's no excuse.
Yes.
I was at home doing nothing. But I think now, what you were trying to do in your show with the big clock, in some way it's now happening to us in real life. Time has become fluid, or time has become something different than what we used to know. And I think it's, and speaking of time also, and this perhaps I'd like to ask all of you, in the near future, how do you see yourselves traveling? How do you see yourselves, when do you see yourselves traveling abroad again? How do you think it will be different than, different or previous trips abroad? Do you think you've taken your shows abroad? How, from your perspective as independent artists, do you think this will differ? How do you think it will look in 2021, 2022, and so on? So, Mika, if you don't mind continuing, just how do you see it happening? If at all.
I don't know, actually. I feel that we need to keep thinking about it, that it will happen, and in the end it will happen, and not fall down into this kind of not knowing, and just continue to create, and it will find its way, I think. But for me, as a creator, it's a lot about fighting with myself, because now it's unclear what will happen, and either I wait that someone will tell me this and this will happen, you can make your show, because in 2022 you can present it. But nobody will tell me, like, things are so random, so I can persist about doing it, and then in the end I have big faith that it will happen. And usually things happen like this, I don't know how. So it's just that we need to keep the fire and not collapse down into this
despair.
Time. Yeah.
I think because of, first of all, we are lucky to have compact shows. So I guess the budget will go down, and the limitation of audience and social distance and all this crappy thing. So first of all, we're lucky to have this opportunity to do it anyway, now also. And maybe it will create some new ways to perform, like maybe one-on-one. It's happening now, starting to happen. One-on-one, or to find alternative חללים, spaces. And maybe it will make us force us to think differently, and it's great.
Yeah.
So,
Great. Any ideas?
I think we'll have to be more flexible. I think first the history will, we will come to our senses, we'll get used to it, and it will be okay. So we just need to put the mask.
It will become the new normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, but I also think that, we just have to be, we'll have to be more flexible. When you perform outside, you also have, if it's raining, what you're going to do, So always have an alternative. If there is corona, you have the show, but you also have an alternative, small size version. Yes,
Yeah.
maybe it's a way.
I agree. I think that we'll find the alternatives. In general, I think that fringe theater and compact theaters, this is the subject of this panel, compact theaters, we are sort of, I think, a guerrilla theater.
Yeah.
So I think in the place where the great armies fail, we have the ability to, we're very flexible. And we are
like cockroaches.
we like cockroaches. We don't need a lot of money. We like, and I'm a descendant of Holocaust survivors. So this is what. So I come from. It will be okay. You will go. You will travel. You will do everything. And
have to say it.
yeah, say it once.
Hitler.
Okay. And I think that. I started performing in my house, in the living room. I invited people, they came, then 10 people came, 20 people came, Right now, during the COVID virus, I had a tour, a summer tour in like all the people's homes.
Yeah.
They couldn't get out. I had to perform. It was a good combination. So I found myself in front of totally new audiences. So I think this will happen in the global sphere as well. I think we all had a big shock now, and when I say we all, I mean we all, the whole world, we had a big shock. This is also something that unites us in a way, and we will recover from it, and we will find the way to perform. It's not going to be a problem. I think the ways will be very inspiring. I'm curious to see.
This actually leads me to, do you want something else? Yeah.
But I think, like the coronavirus now that happened, it reveals the lack of art that we have. But I think we were dealing it in the fields of arts or in the theater a long time ago in the fringe. I mean, it's not so easy to bring audience, and it's not so common. And now it's even more. And I feel artists are fighting for it, and we have creativity, and we have find amazing solution, which I can think in my mind right now. But I feel we need somehow to make it something that we all want to bring back. And now I feel it's not enough. And this is a big thing that we as a country and the government, we need to support and want it, and to understand why it's so important, and to educate for that. So the corona is kind of a symptom of it, but I think it had roots back there that we need to, at least in Israel. In other countries, I think it's better, but I don't know.
So this actually, everything that you're saying brings me to another question, and you've all sort of touched on it, because fringe theater, this is what we're used to. We're used to the hardships, we're used to not having any money, we're used to the tough conditions, no spaces, or having to work in challenging spaces. So what can, if at all, can fringe theater teach the more mainstream repertory theater after and during this crisis? Can fringe theater, help a brother out and give some tips to the more mainstream theaters that are really in Israel right now at the moment are completely closed, completely locked down? Any ideas, any tips for Big Brother?
I'm going to return to the military. As you all know, I served in the Israeli Green Berets, so no, I didn't. Of course not. But I'm going to return to that metaphor, because I think that I've thought about it a lot during this COVID period, that it's like a war. And in this war, I see the big establishments, not only in theater, by the way, in all the spheres, as like these big armies that are moving in very difficult conditions. This is like a guerrilla war. So we are the small compact units that move, and we serve as a sort of an avant-garde. I don't even think that, I think that it happens naturally. I think that always the mainstream uses this avant-garde sphere to advance, you know. I think that I agree with Michal. I think that the theater in Israel, I'm sorry to say it, but I have students, I teach also theater, I take them to shows, I have to take them to shows that the school approves, and I often sit in the shows and I say, oh my God, are you still doing this? It's like, wow. And I think this is a good time. It's a good time to shake off the dust and change and listen to the small combat units that are moving out there in the woods, you know, pulling out their masks, doing you know, going crazy. Everything is performance, you know, this is performance. And it's a very weird situation because we are performing, I don't even know if anybody is watching us. Look, I'm performing, I'm giving all my energy, we're talking here, we have no idea except the people here. So this is also a creative, you know, the IsraDrama came with a creative idea and we are performing, look at us. We just, Michal is dying to jump on the table, you know, and start performing. We have crowd.
We still have time. We still have time, so anything can happen.
I'm a dad, so I have to behave, you know,
respectfully.
Respectfully,
Yes.
Great chance for the repertory theater to think out of the box and get into the black box and create something new, because really it's the mesorti,
Traditional.
The traditional theater is really not really relevant now, and they need to look forward and invent themselves again.
Reinvent themselves.
Reinvent themselves.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say shalom to Montreal. Shalom back.
Because I said there's no crowd.
So there's a question. We have a question here from Jesse Bernstein. When international travel is safe again, is there financial support on the Israeli end to help sponsor your work being presented in the United States? Also, how would presenters contact these performers and or learn more about their works? So let's answer Jesse. Is there an Israeli support system? Do you think the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Culture? Michal, why are you laughing?
Is there? Do we even know what is there? Is there a government? Is there a budget? We have no idea. There used to be. There used to be. Is there? There used to be a system of help from the Minister of Foreign Affairs that helped a lot, and it was even under. I mean, Bibi really supported
Benjamin Netanyahu, our
Benjamin
Prime Minister,
Netanyahu,
yes.
Mr. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, really supported it at the time, and it was part of I think, very important political way, different way to show Israel in the world. I think it was very beneficial for Israel. But in the past 2 years, this system kind of died slowly and surely. So we have no idea what will happen.
I think at the moment, I think if I may, at the moment the theaters are closed, and we have no idea when we're going to be up and running again, and so we have no idea really if we'll have the funds to help artists go abroad, and so we still don't know. The real answer is, I think I'm correct, is that we still don't know.
Yes, and this is why the small 2 suitcases shows are really interesting for you.
I can add something in this aspect. I don't have as much experience as Michal in touring abroad, but from my experience, well, you know, funds is a problem everywhere in theater. I think that almost everywhere funds forms a sort of problem. I think that fringe performers and creators that I know really have the urge to travel abroad, so they'll make all the efforts themselves. For me, for example, if I really wanted to take a show abroad, rarely was money the real.
No, don't sell us so.
No, I'm not selling it. I'm saying I'm saying that there isn't much support from the government in transporting shows outside. There is a lot of motivation by Israeli artists to move around. I think that it also has to do with the fact that Israel is a small state. People here sort of look at themselves in sort of peripheral way, and they want people to see them, and they want people to love them. Please love us. Please, we're okay. We're you know, it's not only about wars here. We're artists. We do art. So I think this is part of the thing.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to bring an optimistic angle to all this. There aren't many funds. There are some, and I hope there will be much more.
I was invited to a Fringe festival in Denmark last year, before the corona.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, I had to make some מימון המונים כזה.
Crowdfunding.
Or a party to get some money for the tickets.
Yeah.
So it was before the corona.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's related just to this crisis, but...
No, but now it's even more difficult,
Yeah.
I would assume.
So good luck to us.
Yeah. So first of all, we owe a hello to Trinidad and Tobago. Hello. I feel like, yeah, this is amazing. I think there was a second question there that I don't know that if we answered. Oh, how to reach the artists. How can they reach you?
Well,
People?
I think
You take a dove and you put a little note to it. You send it in the direction of Israel. I'm joking.
it's a small country, so it will get somewhere.
Technically, we have the
Yeah,
link.
I think the website.
I think
online. On
online?
the website.
Yeah.
On the website, on the IsraDrama website, you can contact and reach each of
Maybe you can
these
write down
wonderful-
our names or something, because if they don't get it, so you can maybe look out for it.
Yeah, but it's all online. It's all on the website. Maybe we can even
And
share.
of course, Facebook and...
Okay, well, maybe we can show it online, like on the Zoom. Okay, cool. So I have one sort of final question, and I think it might be a bit sensitive, but, you know, who knows, maybe not. Yeah, let's just... So do you think that let me direct this question also to the people at home. Do you think that COVID-19 has affected the freedom of speech? Do you think, because we're now living in a very sensitive time, I guess, and the sensibilities are very high, let's say, and so do you think that these sensibilities that existed before the pandemic will still be around the day after? Will we still have the open-mindedness, the sensitivity to deal with them? And a follow-up question that I have is that do you think, and this has to do with international travel, do you think that there are things that you can say here, for example, in Israel, that you can't say when you go abroad? Michal, I think you have a show. You mentioned the name Hitler, so you'll get a chance to say it again. But do you think that there are things we can say here and maybe joke about here that are more sensitive or that might require changing, altering, adapting your shows somewhere else?
I can say that, first of all, I'll start from the end.
Yeah,
okay. So we're sitting here in a space that is in Jaffa. And Jaffa is a mixed city of Arabs and Jews that live here. And my show that deals with this conflict between Arabs and Jews in Israel, it was actually written about Jaffa. And I found that actually it was vice versa, that actually things that, it was both ways, that's what I mean. It was things that can't be said here, can be said abroad, and vice versa. So it appears like there are things that you can't say abroad and you can say here because Israelis are so loose and not politically correct, but that is actually not so true because there are some taboos here that you can't even touch. I'm playing with puppets, so I can touch a lot of taboos that are not to be touched, because that's the role of puppets, I think. That's regarding what you can say and what you can't say. For the first part of the question, the COVID thing, I also think that the post-COVID era, and I don't mean that COVID, maybe it won't be ended so soon. Maybe it will be a fusion situation of people still performing live, but still performing in Zoom, going with masks, but maybe sometimes not going with masks. I think the post-COVID era will be less, I hope and think that it will be less politically correct. Because I think that in a way, the whole world now is dwelling in something very, very big that affects a lot of people. And my notion is that if we're all in the same mess, then afterwards the delicacies will be loosened. You know, it will be more possible for artists to speak about agendas and problems that are like locals in a way.
I don't know if it will be more possible, but it will sure be, and it is needed for artists to speak out, and especially in this kind of time. This is our role in the society. We should, I really not forget it. And I think that the question is not only if we can speak about these kind of things or taboo things, but the question is, yes, we need to speak about those things. This is our role. The question is how. Like in any dialogue between people, the question is how. You can say brutal things and not be heard, and you can speak them very nicely, and you can wrap them up with humor, and you can wrap them up with artistic ideas, and then it changes everything. And I really think we need to speak up, and because there is a crisis, not only, I mean, the corona brought a crisis of, like a political crisis, and a crisis of trust in the governments. So we really need to speak it out, and this is really what we have to do it. Not to be afraid, this is not our role to be afraid. And about changing things and adapting to other countries, of course we need to adapt. And this is why it's so nice to do theater and not to make films, because we can adapt. And I've always adapted shows to local countries. And if you speak about these taboos, like Moti show is talking about this Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I have a show that talks about, that calls The Dictator Mom, that was here last year. The dictator's mom is talking about, also about Hitler. I mean, it's very clear that it talks about Hitler. And as always, everything, I was playing it in the most delicate places, Austria, Poland, Germany, etc. And we don't. And so, yes, it was very wrapped with humor, as you said. And as me, as a Jew, I can speak about it. Him, as an Israeli, it's you know, especially us, because we are touched by it. We can always speak about the taboos issues because we are touched by them.
Those that relate to us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Rotem, you want to
I
say?
will go to the follow-up question.
Yeah.
I think crisis brings changes. I mean, when now we're in a state of mind or a survival mode that forces us to shout out our pain because we have to. I mean, we're not comfortable, so we're moving, and movement is change. So I believe, I hope it will change something and develop into something better. As we see now, the government, I mean, it was awful before the corona, and now we're starting to talk about it and to make art of it, and I hope it will be more of it.
Yeah.
So it's, that's what I think.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Can I add a small thing?
Sure,
Just
sure.
in this aspect, I want to say something. I think that COVID, in a way, it united the world. And I think that the bottom line of this epidemic is that the problems in China, they are the same as here. You know, the conflict here affects the elections in the United States. The election in the United States affects Russia. And everybody is in the same mess, and it creates a feeling that this is why I think that like local problems will have more space. We are more we can more easily listen to the other person's problem. I feel that there was kind of separation before, and COVID came and mashed it all up.
Yeah.
So now you can talk about Canada, but you actually, it's relevant to you. You can feel it in your, that's it. That's what I want to say.
I think we could not have asked for a better sort of concluding sentiment or concluding sort of way to wrap this conversation up by saying truly that this pandemic sort of brought us together, and we're all in the same boat, let's say. So if there are not any more questions from the audience at home, I think we will thank you again for attending this panel. This was fascinating. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you at home. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the festival. Good evening. Thank you. Goodbye.